tonight.
Maybe for Democrats, the best thing is to get this Mueller report off the table as quickly as possible.
I think it's the best thing for the country.
We're not going to cave into the NRA when we pass responsible gun control laws.
I hate fucking Trump. He's a racist, but I've been saying that since I first came to town in 1980.
Purdue Pharma has settled its lawsuit with Oklahoma over its alleged role in the state's opioid crisis for $270 million, with most of the money going towards funding an addiction studies and treatment center at Oklahoma State. The settlement could be the first of many for the maker of OxyContin, which is currently facing more than 2,000 opioid-related lawsuits in the U.S.
The Republican Party will soon be known as the party of healthcare. You watch.
President Trump's bold promise comes a day after his administration changed course on the Affordable Care Act, arguing the law should be struck down in its entirety. The Justice Department had previously said only certain provisions should be scrapped, like protections for pre-existing conditions. The lawyers representing convicted drug cartel boss Joaquin El Chapo Guzman are calling for a hearing to investigate juror misconduct. Their filing cites a Vice News interview with an anonymous jury member who said some on the panel disregarded the judge's ban on following media coverage during the trial. El Chapo's lawyers say if that's true, his case wasn't heard by an impartial jury, and he deserves a new trial.
Now I'd like nothing more than to just get back to work and move on with my life.
Chicago prosecutors dropped all criminal charges against Empire actor Jussie Smollett, whom they'd accused of faking a hate crime. The prosecutors didn't say why they abruptly reversed course after police had made such a show of producing evidence against Smollett. But the prosecutor behind the decision said it's not an exoneration and that they stand by their investigation.
Is without a doubt a whitewash of justice and sends a clear message that if you're in a position of influence and power, you'll get treated one way, other people will be treated another way.
I'm curious, if things had gone differently and the findings of the Mueller report had been a little different, would we be talking about climate change and healthcare today?
We've always felt that the issues that affect average Americans, healthcare, climate change, jobs, is far more important to them and to us than what happens in an investigation. Obviously, we might have said a few different things here and there.
That was the sound of Democrats trying to change the subject after seeing the first findings from the long-awaited Mueller report. The reason why is obvious. Those findings were embarrassing for a party looking to find ways to take down the president. The weird thing is, Democratic voters in the primary states appear to have been ahead of him.
It's my pleasure to introduce Senator Warren to the North Country.
I am absolutely appalled at what they're doing with transgender service members right now in the military.
I want to thank you and applaud you for your position about the Electoral College.
New Hampshire may face $750,000 cut to peer recovery support services.
Yes.
What are you going to do for the peer recovery support piece?
No voter at any of the events we attended said the words Robert or Mueller.
Here in New Hampshire, we have a lot of people who have guns, and they're going to have the knee-jerk reaction of you're coming for our guns. What do you have to say to them?
What's your thoughts on adding people to the Supreme Court?
What specific reforms do you think that you would be able to put into place and that could kind of get rid of some of that corruption of money in politics that exists today?
The candidates we saw also didn't directly address the report.
There is a corruption of spirit that is casting a dark shadow over our country, that is being driven by self-serving politicians, by special interests and greedy corporations. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm asking for your support.
So the Mueller report has not come up in any of these New Hampshire town halls that I've been in. Do you think that means that voters out here don't care about it?
I think that is the evidence that Washington is completely disconnected to the issues that are top of mind for Americans across this country. They're asking questions about things like healthcare. They are asking questions about things like the cost of war.
So you're saying that maybe for Democrats, the best thing is to get this Mueller report off the table as quickly as possible and talk about something else?
I think it's the best thing for the country.
The president, understandably, is not quite ready to move on.
Our country's in incredible shape. They and others created a fraud on our country with this ridiculous witch hunt, where it was proven very strongly, no collusion, no obstruction, no nothing.
The president kind of proves Gabbard's point in New Hampshire. Democrats focusing on the Mueller message, at least until Congress has the full report, could be a political problem.
It is important to recognize Mueller's report, accept what he found, which is that there was no collusion, see for the good of the country. That's actually a good thing.
What do you mean good thing?
I think it's a problem for the country if we have a president of the United States who was colluding with a foreign country to interfere in our elections. That would be bad for all of us and bad for the country.
It feels like a lot of Democrats, though, are still like trying to make fetch happen with this Mueller thing, right? That maybe someone's going to come in and put handcuffs on the president and going to end this nightmare for the Democratic Party. You don't seem to be saying that. You're saying maybe this is over with, let's just move on?
I'm saying the issue of collusion, which was the reason for the Mueller investigation in the first place, Mueller has found didn't take place. So let's put the well-being of the people in our country first, move forward in coming together to address the healthcare needs of our country, the needs of education and infrastructure. There's so much work that we need to do. Now is an opportunity for us to come together and begin to do that work.
Some Democrats may want to move forward, but they're also still calling for the full report and whatever answers are in it to be made public. And it's difficult to move on while that fight continues, and when all we have after a 2-year probe is a 4-page summary written by Attorney General William Barr. Mary McCord still has some questions, and she helped oversee the investigation into foreign meddling in the 2016 election for the Justice Department before Barr or Robert Mueller stepped onto the scene. What does this letter mean?
Well, it means that things aren't over because we still have uncertainty in terms of the lack of a conclusion by the special counsel with respect to obstruction of justice, which leaves people wanting to know what is the evidence that he gathered and what was the reason that the Attorney General decided that it wasn't sufficient to support a charge of obstruction of justice. I think with respect to the Russian interference part of things, it feels kind of over, at least with respect to there not being sufficient evidence for conspiracy.
Why do you think Mueller treated the conspiracy question differently from the obstruction of justice question?
The best guess that I have is that it was more debatable whether obstruction rising to the level of actually a chargeable offense had been established by the facts that he had gathered throughout the investigation. It's not only not uncommon, but it's required for U.S. attorneys to have to brief up the Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General before making a charging decision in cases that are particularly sensitive.
Is it plausible to think then that a different Attorney General might have made a different judgment call?
It's certainly plausible. Again, we're operating here without seeing what facts are in the full Mueller report. However, again, as quoted by AG Barr in the letter to Congress, the special counsel apparently said, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. So we know there's a delta there between he did nothing wrong and he committed crime.
Is there a difference between the crime of obstruction of justice and the impeachable offense of obstruction of justice, which factored into the impeachments of Bill Clinton and Richard Nixon?
Yes, there is. Congress could see it differently as the prosecutor responsible for bringing articles of impeachment, and could see that the conduct, the facts established through the investigation are sufficient to write up articles of impeachment based on obstruction, and could proceed that way. That's certainly possible.
Why is it difficult to bring the charge of obstruction of justice in this case?
With respect to obstruction, you need obstructive conduct, you need a nexus between that conduct and the proceeding that you seek to obstruct, and you need corrupt intent. And just to take an example, people talk about the firing of Jim Comey. It seems relatively clear that one reason, just from public statements that the president himself has made, that one reason that he fired Jim Comey is he thought that the Russian investigation, or the investigation into Russian influence on the election, was a witch hunt and it should stop. He's been really pretty transparent about that.
He's been pretty clear on that point, yeah.
But it's possible that a prosecutor looking at, is that enough to obstruct a proceeding, a grand jury proceeding? Is it enough that he hopes that somehow by firing Comey, that the entire investigation will be derailed? And, you know, reasonable minds can differ about whether the nexus is significant enough.
If you had an opportunity to ask Mueller anything, what would you want to know?
For starters, I would want to know why he did not reach a conclusion on obstruction. And again, the appointment was not focused on obstruction by any means. It was focused on, were there links or connections between the Trump campaign and the Russian government in terms of the interference in the election, but it also empowered him to follow other leads as they may. And certainly anytime you're talking about obstruction of an underlying investigation, that's going to be pertinent to the scope of your mandate. So I'd just be very interested in why he decided not to go ahead and reach that final conclusion. I mean, he is a man who doesn't have difficulty making decisions, in my experience, and so it is odd to me that he chose not to make that decision.
It officially became a crime to possess a bump stock today. The bump stock is a little device that helps a rifle mimic the effect of a machine gun. And it came to widespread attention when the Las Vegas shooter used one to kill 58 people back in October of 2017. For years, the ATF said the bump stock was legal because it didn't change the fundamental mechanism of a semi-automatic rifle, that for every bullet fired, the trigger is pulled once. But after Vegas, ATF changed its mind.
The Department of Justice clarified that bump stock type devices are machine guns and are prohibited by federal law. And anyone possessing these bump stock devices have about 90 days to either destroy them or turn them into an ATF field office.
So how'd that go? Gun rights groups say there are 500,000 bump stocks out there in the country. But when we asked the ATF how many people actually turned one in, they refused to tell us. They claimed it was, quote, a number of people. So we decided to look back at what happened in the last year when 9 states put into effect their own bump stock bans. In Vermont, state police told us that they took in just 2 bump stocks. Hawaiian authorities said they got less than 5. Only Delaware did half decent, 35 bump stocks, the result of a buyback program. And then there's Rhode Island and New Jersey. They got none. I asked former state senator Ray Lesniak, who sponsored the bump stock ban in New Jersey, if he considers it a success.
I think the law is working very well. First of all, you're not going to see any stores selling them, that's for sure. Secondly, you're not going to see, hopefully, anyone using them to commit mass murder. If people want to hold on to their bump stocks, don't take away my bump stock, they're risking 3 to 5 years in prison. I think someone would more likely destroy it than turn it in.
I mean, you're assuming they will, but what if, as it appears to be the case, that we only really get rid of 10 or 15 or 20 of them, or a few hundred of them even, out of 500,000?
I don't believe that's a valid assumption.
Is there any way to know? I mean,
no, there isn't. Yes, there is. Knock on gun owners' doors. We're not going to do that. We shouldn't do that. All right? But what I do know is that they'll never be used again for mass murder.
That's the trap being laid by the non-compliance of bump stock owners. For the government to really make the law work, it'd have to do exactly what gun rights groups have been warning about for years. And since that's not happening, gun owners can say the law is nothing more than a fig leaf.
Any responsible law that is a reaction to a mass murder, whether it's symbolism or not, is important for us as representatives of public policy. You know, we're not going to cave into the NRA when we pass responsible gun control laws. And this is one of them.
Il voto è chiuso. Il testo è approvato.
Today, the European Parliament voted in favour of a wonky-sounding law called the Copyright Directive in the Digital Single Market. But what sounds like an innocuous piece of bureaucracy has inspired more than 100,000 Europeans to protest out of worry for the future of their internet. Lawmakers designed the directive to try to protect the rights of online creators and make sure artists are paid fairly. But opponents claim it will restrict freedom of speech, make the internet dry, dull and corporate, and kill off the user-generated content that gives the web its snarky, saucy voice. Today, if a user takes a sample from a song and uploads it to a platform, the copyright owner must notify the platform to take it down. They can only sue if the platform doesn't take that content down. Under Article 13 of the new directive, online platforms can be sued if they don't make their best efforts to keep copyrighted material off their sites in the first place. That puts the onus on platforms to throttle content that even vaguely resembles what's copyrighted. In other words, the process is more likely to work like this. A user takes a clip from a movie and repurposes it, then uploads it. The platform's filters flag it, blocking it from ever being published.
If I'm a company, I have the possibility that it's not a problem, or it is a problem. I will, of course, think in the first case it's a problem because of money, because I have to get sued. So I will pro-blocking it.
Dennis Brahman is a founder of the Piet Smeert YouTube channel, with 2.3 million subscribers who come to hear commentary on video games. He's been a vocal critic of the legislation.
Sollte nicht die ganze Zeit, sollte nicht auf Kosten der kleinen Künstler und der kleinen Content-Creatoren, sollte das nicht verletzt werden.
In theory, it's a good line, yeah, and you have protected forums and so on, Wikipedia, whatever, yeah. In theory.
So you think the lawmakers or the legislators and the people who are putting this together have no clue about what they're doing?
In fact, they have no clue.
Opponents have dubbed it the meme ban and created numerous means to protest the law.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriff Steiners war ein Befehl!
Despite parodies being exempt under the legislation, critics believe that filters will be imperfect and error-prone, unintentionally blocking the content that makes the internet a fertile ground for social commentary, political critique, and playful exuberance. Is there even a filter for something like that?
At the moment, no. It's impossible. Name me a filter where is every line from every book, from every music, every film, every picture in the world in one program to check it. So yeah, the text is nice. Yeah, there is no parodies, Wikipedia is out, all non-profit organizations are out, and so on. But it's not possible at the moment. Maybe in 10 years we can fly and it's easy. But at the moment, I don't see it.
Passing the directive in the EU Parliament is only the first step. Member states have a deadline of 2 years in which to interpret and implement the law locally. That doesn't settle Brahman's worries.
Maybe some more strict governments will use it more strict.
Well, so you think certain governments are backing this because it means that they'll be able to control what goes online more?
Yeah, more. Not everything, but a little bit more, yeah. And that's a bad thing, with permission from EU Parliament.
Okay.
She's so beautiful. What's her name?
Bianca. She's very famous. Look up Bianca the dog.
Special counsel Robert Mueller may have filed his report.
Hey, how are you, buddy? Okay.
And Attorney General William Barr may say it contains no new indictments. But the investigation continues to impact the lives of those who played even just bit parts. including political satirist and perennial third-party candidate Randy Credico.
Let's go.
And his dog, Bianca.
Come on, hurry, come on. You know where to go. Come on.
You communist now?
How's
Get
that?
the mouth shut, the mouth
No, it's a tie from what's his name, the painter, the great painter, the guy who died. What's his name? Andy Warhol. You see that? Look, was he a communist because he painted Mao?
No.
I'm far to the left, but I'm not,
That's all right. How you been, my man?
I'm hanging in there.
All right.
Trying to stay out of trouble, try to stay out of the limelight.
You can't stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Trouble follows you. How's our buddy Julian Assange doing?
Assange is not doing so well because he's been in that embassy for 6 years, yeah.
I thought he was leaving.
6 years, but he's been without communication for 1 year. And I'm planning to go there on the anniversary of the 1 year cutoff because he got heat from the Trump administration.
Credico got dragged into the Mueller investigation when his longtime frenemy, Roger Stone, said he was his conduit to Wikileaks. Credico denies Stone's account. According to Mueller's indictment of Roger Stone, when Credico refused to change his testimony, Stone threatened to kidnap his beloved support dog, Bianca.
I'm not talking now, going forward, about anything that had to do with 2016 and Russiagate. That doesn't define me. I'm a political satirist and civil rights activist. Those are accomplishments in my life that I want to be defined by, not some this Forrest Gump situation I got myself into, which everybody wants to seem to talk about. A lot of people extrapolate, this guy did that, nobody knows, and I'm not going to go out there and deal with it. Who knows? A lot of crazy people out there, a lot of crazy people. So I lay low. He's got 10 minutes to cut my hair. Jeez, I should have called him first. 11 minutes. All right, you got it, man. Well, he's got to do it in 10 minutes because I'm not going to feed. What? Well, I hate more than anything is when he pushes my head forward. I hate that. I have to go by and see my lawyer, who's represented me in about 5 cases.
Credico is represented by Marty Stoller, a civil rights attorney who usually handles simpler cases, like Credico's many protest arrests.
I got 3 minutes.
But today, he's helping him respond to a request from the House Judiciary Committee, which is investigating all things Trump obstruction. Its chair, Jerry Nadler, is asking Credico for records of his communications related to the 2016 election, Russia, and Wikileaks, which is basically what he's already handed over to Mueller.
You got 81 people who got letters from what's his name, from Nadler. They're all like conservatives, with the exception of Assange. They're all these, I'm a leftist. I'm a leftist, far left. You know what I mean? I'm not part of the Trump. I hate fucking Trump. He's a racist. He's everything that Cohen said, but I've been saying that since I first came to town in 1980. He's a fucking wannabe, Mussolini. Oh, look at this shit here. All the fucking... Look at this. Where the fuck am I supposed to go? Can't even fucking move here. Garbage trucks with 5 million fucking boxes. Look at this. How many fucking boxes can he put in this goddamn fucking garbage truck? And this fucker's blocked the whole cocksucking fucking thing. Is there any way to get out of here? This is my life. My life is not all about that thing that's happening in the probe, in the Mueller probe. All right, that's not my life. I'm trying to live a life here. All the years I chased getting on television and getting fame when I was young through comedy, and then suddenly I've got the cameras on me and I'm not interested. How do you like that? What an irony. Eighth floor. Marty Stoller, attorney at law.
Even if House Democrats drop their requests, Credico will likely get hounded by political junkies and conspiracy theorists for the rest of his life.
Did you have a busy day today? How's your health? Health good? No. No?
The draft letter that I've written, which can go out today or tomorrow, basically says that we'd be happy to give them the materials, but we've turned everything over to Mueller's office. We consent for Mueller to give them to the committee. So everything that we gave to Mueller, we're going to give to the committee.
All right, quit saying Mueller's name, would you please?
All right, so I'll just take draft out. And then we got to print it. And now we have to send it to Mr. Nadler.
All right, and then you'll do anything
and to
else.
The special counsel.
Would you stop mentioning that name? I don't want to get into it.
Off it goes.
I'm exhausted.